All right, so good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to another scene for This Life, the werewolf game set in beautiful Duluth, Minnesota, on the Up to the Hearth's Fire. Where for tonight's scene, Sylvie's gotten just kind of word passed to her that Charlotte would like to talk to her before she's fully fledged into the pack. Just because it's good to get a feel for people. So she's gotten the heads up to meet her down at the lower side of the lake, kind of the area where the shadows are thickest, where things are a little muted, where sound doesn't travel as far. And I mean, I imagine by now even Sylvie's heard that this is kind of where you go if you don't want to be overheard. It's
Yep.
considered overall probably the safest place to say what you gotta say, and no, it won't get repeated unless it's by whoever you say it to. So yeah, as evening draws on and the stars are winking in, we will set the scene there.
And Sylvie will make her way down to the lower side of the lake. She'll probably try to get there a few minutes early. Partly out of respect for Charlotte and partly because she she just has this need to be the best. Um and yeah, so she will be there a few minutes early. Probably keeping an eye out for Charlotte since she assumed Charlotte would be there first.
Oh, almost assuredly. So yeah, Sylvie can trot along down that way, and Charlotte's not lingering too far from kind of the outskirts. One of those things where like she's not sitting in plain sight, but once you push through the first little bit of the trees and the undergrowth and just all these things that kind of keep echoes from traveling. Just a lot of brush, a lot of everything. It helps with that sense of privacy. So as Sylvie like kind of presses through, yeah, she'll see Charlotte not far beyond. And I mean, let's face it, it's Charlotte, and she is a glasswalker, so almost inevitably, she's puttering on her phone for the moment. Just, I mean, and you can see it's scrolling, it's swiping, it's the very quick but very fleeting messages getting fired off. It's just kind of business as usual, keeping her finger on the pulse.
Charlotte will she'll stop a few feet or
Charlotte will.
Charlotte. Sylvie. Damn it. I'm doing it again. Sylvie will stop a few feet behind Charlotte. Um get down on one knee, show throat. You wanted to speak with me, Raya?
Then yeah, as soon as Sylvie's starting to kind of not even that loudly for all the underbrush there is, not but so loudly approach. Yeah, there's a flick up of the eyes and a glance around, and I mean you see the thumb just transition up to the side of the phone to click, turning the screen off, and without turning her eyes to it again, she just shoves it in a pocket. Yeah, come on, I've got a space set up over here. And she reaches over to give her a little, the kind of cursory tick tick with the end of a fingernail, like not hard, of course, but it's enough to be like, I'm not doing this weaponless. I'm not being namby pamby, brush you with the fingertips. It's a little tick tick with the nail and gesture enough to get up.
Yep.
She turns that in.
Sylvie will get up and follow Charlotte to where she's got things set up.
Oh yeah, and for all the world, whatever. There's no telling what kind of thing Sylvie expects, really, because Sylvie comes from a completely different sept. And while Charlotte has started to get a grasp of what there is over there, it's nothing like Hearth's Fire. It's not even
Yeah.
remotely like Hearth's Fire. So whatever Sylvie has conjured in her head, whatever she might expect, when she comes around in Charlotte, just kind of leads her to a place where there's a little bit more clear area, a little less underbrush, a little less uh, stuff to get gnarled up in. It's a pretty simple, one of those picnic blankets that's like essentially tarp on one side.
Mhm.
Has been laid out, not on the ground, but like, up on one of the little ridges. There's a lot of areas on Sept where we have some altitude change. So it's kind of like a little ridged area, a place where there's some protruding stone. And it's just been plunked there, so there's a clean place to sit. And let's face it, there's probably her laptop set there for whatever she was up to waiting for Sylvie to come along. Just sat there, lid shut. And, her bag. Nothing really that stands out, nothing that's really intimidating, nothing that's really like no just, bottle of wine. None of that. Just kind of the I wanted to sit somewhere and not get my ass dirty and be able to work on my shit kind of vibe.
All right. You know what? Go ahead and give me a perception alertness or perception empathy.
Perception empathy? Why, yes, I think I shall. Just double checking. That is what I thought. Oh god, what did I do? I don't even know what I did. Okay. This life. All the dice. Tell me about your mother. Let me check to see if the specialty would apply. The specialties that might apply are attentive and hidden motives.
Oh, attentive would definitely apply.
Okay, so 5 successes.
So, wow. Boy, oh boy. I can't beat that.
It's almost like it's my job.
Yeah. So, she's trying to hide it. But, and doing an okay job of it. But you are really perceptive, Charlotte. You're the Philodox. This is not what Sylvie was expecting. You're not really sure what she was expecting, but she almost seems shocked.
The question is, especially with 5, I'm going to ask this. Does she seem relieved? Does she seem disappointed? Does she seem like, what's kind of the response to this versus her expectation?
Confusion.
Just outright confusion?
Just outright confusion. Like, it's a picnic blanket and a laptop.
Yeah, it's literally like, it looks like the kind of shit, like there's the satchel that she carries her electronics in and her little odds and ends. The laptop's pulled out and set aside. You can tell the lid's just been smacked down before she got up to come and wait. But there's maybe that. There's there's probably like an energy drink can visible, like past the edge of the satchel, though like not quite sticking out. But it looks for all the world like she was just like, this seems like a good spot. I'll just lay this here and stay busy.
And Sylvie will finally look at Charlotte and just ask, did you need to debrief me about something, Raya?
In part, yes. In part, I just want to make sure we have a measure of each other before we're sworn to each other in a way that can make for a lot of impact on what we do in the future and how we're perceived. Oaths are no small thing, especially to the older tribes. There's a faint smile as she, because Ed sits down, gives the place a pat, like, come on, pull up a, I don't know, square foot of blanket.
Yeah, Sylvie will sit down. So, what is it you want to know?
Well, I figured we would have a bit of an exchange.
Okay.
You have a lot of connections in Wisconsin, I'm sure. Growing up there, I can only imagine how much exchange of favor for favor, secret for secret there is that goes on there. I've only been there twice, and it's very different. I was blown away and both intimidated and inspired. But if we're tying ourselves to each other, if we're laying down our lives for each other, if you're going to follow me and trust me, and I'm going to trust you to have my back, I want to know what outstanding debts there are. I need to know what you know about that place so I can get a better grasp for the next time I have to represent Hearthfire. And in exchange, I'll offer you some of my own secrets, some of my own checks and balances.
Okay.
She is studying. And I mean, it's funny because, I mean, Trev doesn't think about it, but she studies people. The eyes are constantly flicking, not like piercing. It's like someone who's being very attentive when you talk to them. She watches for the tiniest shifts in expression, for shifts in posture, you know, when the shoulders square up when someone's getting defensive, when they slump when you're disheartened or comfortable, leaning back. Like, it's constantly watching for those little tells. She, meanwhile, as the two of you talk and you say okay, finally, like, for all the world, not like an Adrian, pulls her feet up, tucks them under, like sits cross-legged up on the ridge instead of having her feet dangle down or crossing them very delicately and primly. Just pulls them up, crosses them. She's projecting more of a kind of, you know, I'm still holding myself up. I'm still aware that I'm an Adrian, but this isn't stiff. This isn't formal. It's kind of a subconscious tell that she's not expecting formality when she pulls the legs up and crosses them under her.
Well, ties I have ties with the Bordeaux's. Victoria was my auspice mentor during my cubhood.
Miss
She's a
Katie
good-
scrolls down real fast to make sure she's got all this pulled up. Victoria, the Thayard, right?
Yep. Master of the Rites.
Yep.
Niece of the Alpha.
Exactly her. Very intense woman. Very driven. Very driven.
Indeed. I benefited much from her tutelage, and I'm not just saying that to be polite.
There's something to be said for being tutored by the actual rites master. Means there's a lot of promise there. And they sussed it out early enough to put you under a teacher that can teach you as much as possible.
Yes.
So how do these strings connect to you, and how do they connect to each other? I've got an initial kind of impression, but who better to ask than you?
Victoria assisted me during my rite of passage.
Oh?
One of the trials I was required to pass was the creation of a fetish.
I imagine she had to do the right for you, and it was your part to strike the deal?
In part, yes. I did not entirely go through her.
No?
I enlisted the aid of another Theurge, as I also did not know the rite of summoning.
No? Who did you go to for that?
I went to the Redmonds. Sarah Redmond.
I'll give you this. You mentioned the Redmonds, and there's almost immediately kind of a fond expression. It seems almost unconscious. Just the mention of the name. There's just a passive kind of like, ah, yeah, them, in a a positive light.
I may have somewhat offended her with that. I'm not sure.
How so?
I did not tell her I was going to the Redmonds.
Did she seem to take umbrage?
She did not at the moment. In the moment, I went to her last.
Can I ask why?
I felt it better to owe smaller favors to several people than to owe one person something big enough they could hold it over my head for the foreseeable future. And I don't believe Victoria would have done anything malicious in that regard, but
But it still sounds wise to go first to those of lower standing, lower rank, or better time before owing more to someone who, yes, may be more capable, but claim a bigger boon.
she seemed pleased, at least, that I was able to navigate the political web of the Sept instead of just hiding myself away.
I imagine so. It seems like it'd be as much a mark of capability there as she kind of shrugs, gesturing as martial prowess and a willingness to put your foot down is here.
I paid my debt to her for that,
Good.
but it's worth noting, at least up front, that I'm not 100% sure where I stand with her.
But there's no outstanding debt, which is a step.
Yes. In terms of outstanding debts, I may have somewhat taken advantage of the O'Neills.
No?
Um, I was with one of their cubs, one of their children as a cub. Um, I bargained with them for a small weaving loom from one of the craft stores offset and told them I would consider it even for the number of times that I had bailed him out of trouble, either with starting fights or something I can't talk about because I agreed I would keep my mouth shut about it.
The vague smirk. As long as whatever it is isn't going to come around and bite us later.
They they brought me the loom and also some weaving materials, but I did not tell them that I needed it for my rite of passage.
As in, you didn't tell them you needed the extra materials, or as in they didn't know the whole thing was for your rite of passage in the first place?
They didn't know it was for my rite of passage in the first place.
Ah,
They thought
sounds like shrewd dealing.
it is shrewd dealing, and it's the fact that Grey Fox uh, escorted me up here along with Jasper makes me think they still feel I owe them.
How's that? What do you think he wanted you to accomplish here?
I don't know that there was anything he wanted me to accomplish here, to be perfectly honest. I think it was a reminder
so?
Well, you've met him.
Mm.
He was himself. He was friendly and sweet and seemed a little taken aback by my standoffishness toward him. He If he had wanted me to accomplish something specific, I think he would have told me.
No, that or put you in a position to do something that was in your nature anyways.
Like joining your pack, maybe?
Oh, that one was... Well, first you tell me, what did Jasper talk to you about, bringing you here?
Jasper didn't say much.
Really?
He he told me about the sept, about where I was going. Told me a delegation had been there during my rite of passage. Didn't say much worth noting. Uh, Told me he had had some dealings up with Wolfmaw, a possible alliance between the two septs.
I should like to hope.
And was probably being sent there as a result of my uncle's influence. And considering my uncle's the one who called and told me I would be going here, yeah, it probably has a lot to do with my uncle's influence while I'm here.
Well, since we're having a moment of clarity, she leans forward a little bit, kind of that... She's already sitting cross-legged, but she does that slump forward where you put your elbows on your thighs, kind of have your hands crossed in front of you. Jasper did take the time to pull me aside during Beltane. And he made it very clear that you're being brought to further our mutual goals. And when I poked around, nudged around, it wasn't just between your sept and mine. Made it pretty roundabout clear that you're being brought to be a part of my pack. He said that you had very keen potential. I think he thought you'd do me a lot of good. But whatever the reason, it seemed very clear that he wanted you in my pack, as opposed to any other.
What do you owe him? Or what does he owe you? What's your connection with him?
There's an amused crinkle at the corner of the eyes. It's hard to tell where exactly the scale is. It's hard to tell what exactly gets counted as a favor. But you know already that we went investigating because we heard there were lost kin. Remember?
Yes?
Jasper told me about that. He said that they'd heard that some of their kin were lost. He wanted me to go find the source of the issue, find the source of the loss, figure out how it happened, then report it back to him. And offered me something in exchange. So, as far as I can tell, by the time I come to him with the information, we strike the bar even again. There shouldn't be outstanding debt.
And is that all you've done for him?
How much did you hear about the assassins that came during the peace talks, came during the negotiations, I should say? It was never necessarily meant to be a peace talk. For all that was my intention.
I heard that they were stopped, and that they were stopped by partly a delegation from Sept of the Hearth's Fire.
And partly?
Partly by the guardians of the Sept.
Oh.
And a fair bit that I would discount as rumor mongering.
Really?
That the assassins were spirals who'd snuck onto the Sept, that they were from an enemy Sept seeking to reclaim territory, that they were Garal,
Garal.
who were angry about Garou intrusion.
Really? She actually kind of grins, like, what? Garal?
Like I said, I can discount a fair bit of it as rumor mongering. I believe I heard someone talking about a coven of vampires at one point.
Mm. From what I can tell, the purpose of the attack. Okay, so let's back up a step. Do you know why the negotiations were taking place? What exactly had happened? All of the factors. Because I didn't until I was at the table.
I can't say that I do. I was under the impression it was to arrange an alliance between the Septs.
The original negotiating was meant to be done between Wisconsin and Wolfsmaw, because both Wolfsmaw pressed the borders of Wisconsin's protectorate. And after, well, I imagine you heard about what happened to Hugh Von Kerr of a Wolfsmaw.
Yes, it is unfortunate. I was quite fond of him. He
There's a bit of a puzzled look for a moment. Has he passed?
no, but he's not.
Ah. That he's not
He's
who he used to be, I imagine.
no.
Oh, it's terrible what happened to him. And to his family.
Hugh is the reason why I owe the Von Claires.
Really?
I don't know any of this, Charlotte. I have no memories from my life before my first change.
Really?
I can tell you who my mother and father are. I can tell you their names. I can describe them to you. But I have no memory of them being my parents.
Odd. What do you remember? Anything? Anything at all?
I remember chaos. Um,
And Charlotte is like leaning in at this point. She's very interested.
My mother, the woman who was my mother, she was badly injured and bleeding. My uncle Earl, her brother, was trying to uh, explain what had happened, and my cousin, one of my cousins, was missing in the woods, and I had been attacked by.
What you remember, not what you were told. Please.
This is what I remember.
She nods.
I would call it a demon. I assume it was some kind of bane. Maybe a Fomori.
Maybe.
Black
remember-
eyes, spiny skin.
Hmm. Do you remember where you were besides in the woods? Do you remember a home? Do you remember the mountains? Remember anything?
Yeah, I do. I I remember the area, and I could point it out to you on a map, but I don't remember what the lake looks like. I just know that it's there. I don't remember where the paths through the forests are, but I know they're there.
All right. I'm sorry for what happened. And I'm sorry for asking so many strange questions. Just
My my father was there with Hugh Von Clare and Louis Redmond. And I think they were packed together at the time. And that might not have been the case. It might have been just who he could get quickly there. Um, I remember the plan. Hugh and my father would take me and my mother, Erin, um, to the court, and Louis stayed behind to search the woods for my cousin Ivar, and Earl went back to stay with my brother and sister in case Ivar came home. And while we were still packing to go, Trimbuson, several of the Trimbuson family came and helped comb the woods. My mother didn't live to make it to the Sept.
I'm sorry.
I didn't feel anything at her funeral. I knew she was my mother and I should feel something, but
How old are you?
maybe 17,
And as a
maybe
teenager,
18.
it's a terrible thing to have to understand and process. I hope you don't feel badly, but you didn't know how or what to feel.
Um, Den parents, um, Dawn, born in Brambles, and Ethan, Sense of the Truth, told me that not having memories of my life before my first change would make the transition easier for me. And
Probably so.
sent my father home to be with his family. Because not not having the connections that I used to have, that I grew up knowing, but only because my brother changed before I did, my older brother. And when he did, I got in a fist fight with one of my cousins over who would be the leader of our little pack, as it were. And my father had to come and separate us. And that was the point in time where it became clear that we would probably change. And we needed to learn how to behave ourselves and manage our anger.
Imagine so.
And that's when we started learning.
I'm glad, even if it wasn't your whole life, glad you had some teaching, some training, some warning.
Did you grow up unknowing?
Yes. Very much so. I didn't realize why Maria and Damon had moved here until I changed myself and came here to join them. We grew up together. My mom and their dad, they were good friends. So, I mean, you can imagine it was kind of the usual play dates. We spent a
Yes,
lot of time together.
I can. Uh, McDuncan Rye mentioned that you and Maria had known each other since you were
In
small.
diapers.
He didn't say it that way. He said wee lasses.
Yep. We've known each other since we were in diapers. And then, of course, Damon came along and followed us everywhere. But yes, I've known them a very long time, but I had no warning about any of this until it happened.
I'm guessing your mother didn't expect it.
No, my dad died long before I was born. And I don't think she knew what to expect. She kind of like glances over. It's kind of an innocent shrug. I don't think she knew what to do with any of it, but thankfully, her and, well, my pops, they've done really well with it.
Your pops?
My pops, my dad, I mean, not, my biological father, but the man that raised me.
Okay.
They're very good people, but they're not Guru. So they keep
And
safe. And we talk, usually over the phone or the internet. I game with my mom regularly, but they keep to themselves and they stay safe.
that's probably for the best, all
Yeah,
things considered.
exactly. But but yeah, it was unknowing. I was a thorn in Lena's side my whole time as a cub. But I've been here from, well, I can't say day one because I grew up in another state, but from day one of actually learning, it was all here.
You're very lucky, Charlotte.
No? Makes you say
Hearth
that.
Hearthfire is a much more welcoming place than the court.
She kind of finally sits up a bit, thinks about it. Like you can tell, she takes that thought and chews it over for a second. It would have been very different. And while, depending on the person, it certainly would have been much harder, like to think I wouldn't have floundered too badly. It's funny because I keep telling myself I'm being silly. I'm not that much older than you, if I'm older at all. But I see a lot of the push and ambition in you as a Cleith that I know I had. Driven as hell. And I imagine driven people do well in Wisconsin.
They tend to, but
Cleverness helps too, I'm sure.
driven people will break there. They don't have the fortitude of will.
She just shrugs. So, you and Victoria are even Steven. You said you owe the Von Cares.
I think part of me being raised in the court of Wisconsin was to pay off some of the debt to my family for their aid.
Hmm.
I don't know that my family has repaid them. I know both they and the Redmonds had a hand in searching for my brother and making sure any taint in the woods was gone.
Probably best to be sure before you let yourself get caught up on claim debts that you may not even owe. Then again, she kind of shrugs. They've never asked anything of me. But thankfully, wasn't something I'd be inclined to do of my own volition. It's nice to
My
get something in exchange, even if it's needlessly formalized.
my uncle will be trickier.
Oh? Signaled.
It's very likely that it is, well, no, it was a result of his influence that I'm here.
Very possibly. And honestly, I hope so. I have a
And
lot of respect for your uncle.
while he tells me I am here to represent the interests of the family and to learn from the Treminsons, he has not told me outright how I am to do that or what he wishes me to do in that regard. So I am on my own.
Your family does have a certain reputation. I imagine that you'd want to uphold it. And by doing so, you'd probably be doing everything he wants you to do.
I imagine so as well. That being said, I wouldn't entirely discount that he might try to get me to act against your interests or the interests of Hearthfire if it serves the interests of the Iversons or the Trimbusons.
She thoughtfully kind of pulls in a breath, like does that kind of glance up. Just that thoughtful little thing you do, where you kind of blink up for a second or two. I think our interests are more in line than you realize. But we'll see. If he did ask something of you, I know that debts are debts, but would you at least make me aware?
I would.
Give me a chance to try to help you, to make it something that you could fulfill without doing harm to your own sept, because this is your sept now, and to your pack.
You would be my alpha. You are also a Philodox. Of course I would go to you.
And I will peony, because I have to. Only two.
Sylvie tells no lies.
She seems very earnest. Good.
Mhm.
Good. Good.
I
I can't ask you to spill every secret you're told, and I know that. I carry too many as a Philodox to ever expect that. I just. I want to accomplish not necessarily great things, but good things. I want these seps to be able to stand together instead of standing apart.
did you happen to meet Lady Saoirse when you were at the court?
Let me look and see if she is revealed to me or not, because that will be my telling thing. Yes, actually. She was one of the first people that I was able to step aside with, her and the kids. Told them a story. Isabella seemed to really like it. And she thanked me. She's a very, very intelligent, but still very compassionate woman.
She is almost always with either William and Isabella or her husband, the Alpha.
I imagine so.
But if you want to really make in with the court of Wisconsin, being friends with her is a good start. And I don't say that because she's the wife of the Alpha. I say that because she's smart and intelligent.
I can tell you from personal experience that it is a very rare thing for someone to ask for tales from a glasswalker, especially the older tribes. It was flattering, and it was very, very clever. It gave her children a chance to learn something that, outside of me being there, they had little to no opportunity to encounter, to process, to learn. A 1-2 punch of flattering a visiting dignitary and teaching her children. And I imagine learning something about me based on the story I chose to tell. She is not a foolish woman by any means.
I would also stay friendly with Grey Fox.
I'm not sure you can not be friendly with Grey Fox unless he has decided he doesn't want you to be friendly with him.
He he is a Ragabash. And he does a very good job of being how should I put this? He does a good job of being the gregarious, fun, outgoing Ragabash who is everybody's friend.
Charismatic.
Yes.
Very much so.
Don't underestimate him.
Oh, not for a second.
Lady Sersha is his sister.
Oh, I know.
Everything he does in the court, on the battlefield, always is pushing his family's interests.
Hmm.
If you can get along with Grey Fox and Lady Sersha, you shouldn't have too much of a problem with William and Isabel. Daniel. Daniel Bordeaux. I have heard he wants to travel here to have a word with your worm folk.
I have heard much the same. Do you and Daniel, are you on good terms? Do you know each other? Really?
Not particularly well. I was part of the lower courts, not being one of the main families. Um, the only reason I had dealings with the O'Neills really is because one of their children was a cub with me. And I had dealings with the Von Claires and the Redmonds because, well, the Redmonds are Get. And two of their children were also cubs with me.
Oh.
And the Von Claires, well, and the Redmonds also because they helped my family out. So I was acquainted with them. But no, I can't say Danielle and I were close or we were friends. He's a hothead.
Hmm.
He, I believe, originally hailed from a sept in Carolina, though I couldn't tell you the name of it.
Oh. Yes, I think I'm familiar.
But one of their kinfolks made a comment about his cousin Isabella, and he put one of his blades through their hands. One of the Redmond kinfolks.
I believe I was there, or at least heard about it.
Yep.
Yes, I'm familiar.
I know you're a wormfoe by reputation.
Much reputation. I imagine it's very different in Wisconsin than it is here.
I know him as an oathbreaker.
Of course.
I imagine that he is a wormfoe here is an indication that he is more,
Very much so.
and that he is worthy of that position and that trust.
Absolutely. You know, she shifts her weight a little bit, looks thoughtfully down at her hands for a moment before glancing back up. When you have the opportunity, and when he is not busy, I'd urge you to talk to him, to have a chance to make an opinion of your own instead of relying on what you've been told. Our pack is. And you. When you join, will be directly allied to his.
I will do so. I also want to make an effort to get to know the other members of Lily's pack.
A fond little smile. You should. Ravens are very good people. All of them. Lily, I didn't understand very well. And I say this with the idea that from the day I made Cleith and moved out of the public housing, I stayed with them. I lived in their home, in that cabin by the lake. And I still didn't really, truly know or understand Lily for a very long time. But the more that I come to know her, especially of late, the more intensely I respect her and her ability to completely defy expectation.
She is not someone I would underestimate or dismiss outright.
Oh no, never that. Never that. But while it is not as formal as the one with the broken snow, I've gone to lengths to maintain an alliance with that pack. Not because there's some political gain, but because they're very dear to me.
That is something that I have noticed here that I have not seen many other places.
What's that?
Alliances based around not that I've been many other places. Yes, I was friends with the Redmonds. Yes, I was friends with the O'Neill boy. We were cubs. We had a informal pack as a result. But I can't say I would expect them to rely or to ally themselves to me out of fondness for me.
I guess that depending on where you are, loyalty is loyalty. But I find that loyalty is born of true, earnest respect and compassion, true belief in the person that you're expressing loyalty to. It goes a lot farther, and it holds a lot stronger than loyalty born of duty.
That sounds very much like what I would expect a glasswalker to say.
Really? A glasswalker? She kind of smiles.
It's a very nice sentiment.
A very human sentiment.
Yes.
Be drawn into that trap.
The ethos of my family, in a sense, is put down your roots and defend those roots to the death if need be.
Really?
If I join your pack, Charlotte, I will be putting down roots for myself for the first time that I can remember. Real, some real lasting ones. Never joined a pack in 6 months. As a Cleath, I didn't join a pack in the court. I was a candidate to join several. I was operating with one on a trial basis, even.
Why didn't you? And I'm going to peony the shit out of this answer. Charlotte is, let's face it, doing her best to get a good read on Sylvie. And asking questions like these, well, that's 5 successes again.
All right. So Sylvie's answer is going to feel fairly dour. But it is what she believes the truth to be.
All right.
The final task for my rite of passage was to go into the black holes and kill a Bane. I could bring other people along to ensure that it died, if I died in the course of this challenge. And they could assist me after I'd killed Bane. But I had to go in. And I had to fight on my own. I did. I won. And I walked out of there under my own power. It was an impressive feat. It was nothing less than what would be expected of me as a member of the Get of Fenris. The packs sought me out. I did not seek them out. Every one of them that offered me an invitation came to me and did so directly. It made me feel like they saw me as a tool, not as a valued member of their pack, someone they wanted with them. Because I hardly knew them. Some of them hadn't worked together at all. One of them. So I joined one on a trial basis and started running with them, and well, around that time's when I got the call from Uncle Signal telling me I would be coming here.
Out of curiosity, why that pack?
That one in particular?
Mm-hmm.
They were a war pack.
Is that it?
I felt at the time that the most valuable place for me was on the battlefield. I could could make Bane arrows. I could make Moonglow talons. I could even make moon sigils. And Gaia's breaths. I still think a war pack would be a good fit for me.
The quirk of a smile. No, don't worry. We're a peacemaking pack. Find ourselves in the clinch with an alarming frequency.
But with all of that being said, I'm not certain that going somewhere just because it's the most valuable place for me is a wise choice.
I feel like a pack that truly appreciates you for who you are will find a way to make you valuable to them. Will find a way to play to your strengths, just like they would for any other member of their pack.
Pack is our most basic unit. It's like a nuclear family. You have your alpha, your beta. The other members, maybe an omega.
Maybe.
They're the people that have your back on and off the field. They're the people you watch out for. They're the people you eat with, sleep with, train with.
They're the people you're letting into your heart and your head.
Exactly.
It's not a small thing.
I don't want to let someone in my head just to find out they are conniving to use me as a tool for their gain, Charlotte. To find out that they only see me in terms of what I can do for them. Because for my life that I can remember, I have been a pawn, and I have known it.
A pawn only stays a pawn until it crosses the field. And then it can be anything at once.
That is what McDuncan said.
She smiles.
And I don't intend to stay a pawn forever.
No, you won't. Not with us.
If I have my way, I will be a queen. And I don't necessarily not mean in the sense that Lady Saoirse is a queen.
It's
Or
a double
that
negative.
Ulfa Bordeaux is a king.
Or that Maria Trimbuson is a queen.
Exactly.
High aspirations.
It's not my end goal, but I'm open to the possibility of it. Ideally, I would prefer to be a Rite Master than an Alpha.
Unless you want to be stuck playing chess forever.
I don't.
I hope not. Being good at the game doesn't mean you enjoy it.
Depending on who you ask, I'm either a novice or someone with enough skill and luck to bash their way through her opponents. Like with Undergrowth, Raya.
Why did you do that? Say that. It's not for lack of warning. I made sure you knew the situation, the field, as it were. And Undergrowth is no Cleith.
I'm not going to lie and say it wasn't because he irritated me. He did.
Is that the only reason?
I phrased it the way I did because if I irritated him enough, I felt he would agree to provide the assistance
Really?
based on the fact that it was for the defense of the Sept alone.
Hmm.
He was giving me a verbal runaround in his territory around his pack, and I not only challenged his station above me and his authority by not referring to him with all due respect, but I also challenged him to act in defense of the Sept. It was a risk. I was not sure it would work, but it did.
Did it?
Well, from what you told me when I was speaking with Lily, yes, he agreed to help.
Undergrowth has never failed to aid me when I needed it. And Undergrowth has lost. Undergrowth and his pack. They've been. I guess you wouldn't call them the front lines. Because what they do isn't that blatant and that straightforward. But that pack has lost so much. That tribe has lost so much. Have you heard what happened?
I've heard rumors, sparse on details.
In one day, they lost 30 kinfolk when an attack was made on the Hanged Man. And yet they still have been the ones on the street, in the dirt, getting us what we need. Without fail. And yes, Undergrowth. These Undergrowth. But I feel like you need a very harsh, cold sense of humor to go through what they go through. They're not the front line. They're the people on the ground. They're the people crawling through the trenches. When those spirals were the greatest threat we had, they were the ones in the city, in small groups, hunting through places that on several occasions turned out to be outright hives, dens. You haven't seen it. Like, there's just a pause and a blink. Oh, I guess you wouldn't have. I was in the water.
Seen what?
She, like, unfolds her legs and, reaches out for her right leg and starts, hoisting up the jeans. Thankfully, she wears, like, boot cut, so it's not, like, skinny jeans that aren't going to budge. But it takes a little wiggling and a little shoving and a little wrestling. But she eventually gets it up to the knee, and including the kneecap, because ow. But down the front of her shin is a crow, a tattoo.
Wow.
on the kneecap and traveling down the front of her shin. It must have been hell to get.
I was not expecting that.
Ha ha ha! What? How does she react? Tell me a story. I'll roll again if I need to, but I want to know. Like, I don't even know if she's guarding her expression on that one.
Like you can, you know what? I'll go ahead and give you this. She was prepared for a scar. She was not prepared for a tattoo. She was not prepared for a tattoo associated with the Shadow Lords or Undergrowth's pack. Or the Ravens. Because I think that's his pack. I might be wrong.
They are the crows. The
Oh,
crows
they are the crows.
are the gallows crew. They're, well, we call them the gallows or the crows, but the ravens are Lily and Maria and Leaf.
Okay, well, even better.
No, this one's a crow.
Yeah, that's pretty blatant. Well, now.
I took my time, a lot like you did, when I became a Cleath. I ran with a lot of people. And it wasn't that I thought I was being used as a pawn, but I didn't commit so many times because I thought I was either unsuited or I wasn't what they needed. I wasn't capable enough. I nearly joined the Ravens. But when I was young, when I was just a Cleath, Cedric daunted me. I ran with the crows. I still do when I can. Because every time that I've been caught out in the city, you'd think it would be Glasswalkers or Bone Gnars that stumbled across me, that came to my aid. But so many times I've been trying to just do something simple, something normal when I was a Cleath, when I was a Foster. And those spirals would come out of nowhere. And this isn't like the stories you hear when it's spiral number 36. They have names, they have faces, they're terrifying, and they're capable. And I've lost so many people fighting them. I don't think there's a single one that we've killed that hasn't taken one of my people from me first.
I've heard rumors of such.
It's been brutal. And I can't tell you how many times the gallows came out of nowhere. Either guns blazing, Siege slamming through a wall, Anton turning up in the darkest, most horrible place. And they've gotten me out. Time and time again. And they didn't demand something back from me. They've asked. And I've happily given. But don't underestimate who they are because they're Shadow Lords. Don't let yourself get misled by how they compose themselves in public, how they compose themselves in front of other people. They're, I mean, I can't say they're not what you'd expect of a Shadow Lord. They are. But they have risked their necks for me so many times. And I've risked my neck for them. Because how could I not?
I owe them more of an apology than I realize. And I owe you an apology as well for the insult and disrespect to your allies and close friends.
She finally tugs the leg of the pants back down. There's almost no one on this sept that I haven't tried so hard to ally myself to bond with these people, no matter who they are day to day, are the people that when push comes to shove are going to be standing next to you on the field. And we will fight so much better and be so much stronger if we all can recognize that we're bound together under that, at least. And that while each of us has our own flaws, we're in this together. The things that I will struggle with are not the things that you will struggle with. The things that Lily is strong at or weak at, the places that each of us have our strengths and our lackings. We need it. We need all of it. Everyone fills in a gap for someone else. Everyone pushes someone else up. Don't discount anyone. We're allied with the Broken Snow. We have admittedly at the moment, very terse alliance with the Striders. Will's been through a lot. And I know he's capable of being so much better than he has been after what he's lost. But I can't blame him for being who he is now after what he's seen and what he's had to do and what he's had to suffer. No matter how strong we are, no matter how accomplished we are, I hate to think that being a good guru comes at the cost of being a good person. Even though that's almost always the case.
Suppose that depends on how you define a good person.
Someone who gives a shit. Someone who can recognize that no matter how someone holds themselves, no matter what they say in public, no matter how their bitterness reflects in a certain way, there's still a person under there. And there's a person who's acting that way for a reason.
Giving a shit like that, Charlotte, that'll get you killed someday.
Probably. You've already seen that, haven't you? God, it smiles.
It'll test every alliance you have. It'll test every friendship you have.
It always has. It's always worth it. It's always worth it. I don't regret for a second that when we were fleeing Sunnydale and you stumbled, I took a hit for you. I picked you up and I made sure that you were tucked in front of me so nothing else would hit you, so that you'd make it out. I can't keep losing people. I can't keep saying it's an acceptable loss and just turning it all into numbers. And if I have the strength to make sure that you make it out and still make it out myself, how could I live with myself if I didn't?
It's not an acceptable loss when you lose a packmate. It isn't. I know there are people, even in my own tribe, who would say, we are four. We lost one today. We move on. We avenge them. And that is all it is. That is all they say. That is what they do. And they pick up and they move on. And They honor their fallen brother or sister, as is appropriate and by our tribal customs. And they try their best to pretend it never happened. But it's never an acceptable loss. It's not something I've experienced.
You move up from a pond, you see it.
But
There's an amount. There's fights. People die. We always do. We're born to fight. And people are gonna fall. And as long as you do what you set out to do, as long as you fight back the worm, at least they died well, right? That's not enough for me. I'm tired of the backbiting. I'm tired of seeing people die because someone didn't want to support someone else. I'm tired of seeing all the pieces play out in a strategy game and seeing, oh, this base might fall, but we're not allies. It doesn't matter. You need each other. And maybe that's too ambitious, but I don't care. And maybe I'm crazy for trying to bring together Get a Fenris from the stance of a Glasswalker. Maybe I'm crazy for reaching out to the Furies, to the Wendigo, to the Fianna as a Glasswalker. But I don't care. I don't understand everything. I don't understand all the reasons. But I ask. And I do my best to learn and to understand. And I can't say that I understand the Get a Fenris, even now. Growing up with them, living with them, eating with them, fighting with them, laughing and crying with them, I'm still not a Get a Fenris. I still don't hear those voices singing through the crags. I still don't feel that weight of a long and storied history. I don't look back. I look forward.
at this point, Sylvia's hand reaches out and she just places it over one of Charlotte's.
Charlotte doesn't seem uncomfortable about it. Jesus, she has never been more sincere in her life than she is right now.
You are a rare woman, Charlotte, and I don't just mean among the Garou.
I know the phrase is cursed now, but there's gotta be a better way. And I'm gonna find it.
You must have an indomitable spirit.
It's not
To have
flawless.
not had these beliefs break you by now.
I mean, she cracks what. You know what? I'll give you a peony. Because she
All
cracks
right.
a faint smile as she's saying, it's not flawless. Just let me know how many successes you get.
I got 2.
It's like for just a second. Like, I'll put it this way. Charlotte is a rare bird, if only because how many glasswalkers are you ever going to see that wear a blatant cosmetic scar on their face? Something that can't be covered with makeup. Something that's. It's so un-glasswalker. But then again, as a get, you can look at it and know that she's seen battle and she's faced it and she wears it. Right there. on her fucking face. And that's not, like, to a get, that's exactly what you'd expect of an Adren. That's exactly what you'd want. But to a Glasswalker, it's such an alien idea. And it's like for that second, she cracks a smile and says it's not perfect. It's not like a little glint of sadness. It's not cute and tragic. It's like for half a second, you can see that metaphysical strain and tension as she tries to hold a fucking mountain on her shoulders, as she tries so hard to hold so many things together. But Jesus Christ, she's so passionate about it. It's like she believes in this the same way some people fanatically believe and worship Gaia, even in the nation. There are those who go above and beyond. She believes in this so hard. So much harder than she believes in anything else you've seen so far. This is the first time you're getting that glimpse of just that pure, burning, white hot fucking passion.
Charlotte, I'll do my best to help you achieve your goals. As a member of your pack, I promise you that.
She just kind of sucks in her breath and nods. And she just slowly lets it out.
Don't let the weight of all that you're carrying crush you.
You know? Think it would. But that's another reason that my loyalty isn't just born of oaths and tasks. I have so many people that let me lean on them. So many people who are willing to take just a little bit, just for a minute, so I can breathe.
Many in my tribe, even among the women, would say that's weakness. It's a different kind of strength. Knowing when and where and who to unburden yourself to.
Am I weak for sharing the burden? Or
No,
am I stronger because I can carry 10 times as much? Because I have that many people who are willing to just put one hand out and hold just a tiny bit of it.
that's my point.
Nods.
You've proven more than once you're someone worth following, Charlotte. You're someone worth being loyal to.
I hope you keep thinking that way.
You had my back on the boat.
Of course.
You gave me the bucket. You held me down so if I went over, at least you would go over with me and I wouldn't be completely lost in the Umbral Sea. I
Of
can be
course.
brash and short sighted when faced with a goal. I'm sure you've noticed.
You're not the only one.
It's especially so when my auspice moon wanes. I'm not at my best. Shorter tempered, more easily. I guess distracted by my rage. And my auspice moon is waning. I'm sorry, when my auspice moon is waxing. Even though I'm trapped in Hispo, I'm at my best.
And Charlotte,
Obviously. I can't do things that require thumbs.
Charlotte does something that, I mean, being raised among the Get, it's a little odd. Being raised among Silverfangs, it's even more odd. Because this isn't, again, she completely defies formality in this conversation. And she reaches out and, in a weirdly, not maternal, just a caring fashion, she just reaches out and she takes a hold of Sylvie's cheeks. Like, looks for that eye contact. And it's not challenging. It's not that stare.
No, she'll lift her eyes to meet Charlotte's. Like it's taking effort, but she's doing it.
I'm gonna ask you to do a lot of crazy things following me. And sometimes it's for the individual people. Sometimes it's for the betterment of all of us. But while you're walking around this sept, while you are meeting these people, even though you've not met Harrier yet, you've been seen with me. And you've made your choice. Know that you represent me and see who the people are. Don't forget their rank. Don't forget their deeds. But see the people. Because that is how you connect to them. And that is how you make them believe. You're going to do so many amazing things. I told you, it scares me. But in some really weird ways. Do you remind me of how I was as a Clea? You're so driven. You've got an insane ambition. But it's only insane until you do it.
I will do so, Raya.
And I will shove you up that ladder as high as I can.
I appreciate the gesture, but I would much rather climb it myself, even if someone's giving me a hand up.
Doesn't mean it's going to be
Time
easy.
to time.
But it means I'll be there to make sure if you lose your grip, you don't fall all the way to the bottom. I'll catch you.
I know you will. And yeah, she can't keep holding this eye contact. She
lets her go.
Down.
She lets her go. And once she said the first bit, the hands loosen up and finally, fall away, because that is weirdly intense.
Was there anything else you wanted to discuss, Charlotte Raya?
And she finally thoughtfully, looks away, licks her lips, thinks about it. There's more I meant to say. And there's things I wanted to tell you, to see what you'd do with the information. I don't think I need to. I'm giving you my trust. Don't abuse it.
Sylvie will nod. I appreciate your trust, Raya.
She nods. And it's funny because you can see her kind of resolving something with herself.
If there's nothing else, I should rest. I have many things I need to prepare. And I believe I need to go and negotiate with the Silverfangs to get some of their cheese.
Pardon?
The
there's just the most bemused little look, after all this intensity, just wait.
The spirits who I got to send a message to Perfidy were mice.
How did that go?
I believe she's got the message. I'm not sure if the mice have made their way back yet. They are, after all, mice.
Sure enough.
But in exchange, I offered to feed the mice of the sept. And they specifically requested the silver fang cheese that smells like death but tastes wonderful. I think they said like heaven.
There's one of those. There's that moment where she's like, "Okay, right." I mean, you can see the subtext of "Okay, weird there, chick, cool." All right. Well, all the more reason. Take an opportunity when you can. I'd like to see what you think of Skyripper once you've had a chance to talk with him. Not as your worm foe, not as an Oathbreaker, but as a person. Especially as someone who grew up in Wisconsin. Want to know what you think.
Okay. I will do my best to arrange a meeting with him. That isn't about business. Um, Thank you, Charlotte, for putting your trust in me and giving me this opportunity to get to know you better and trying to get to know me. It's been a very long time since someone's genuinely done that.
The door is always open. And eventually, my mind will always be open. If you need me, if you need something, I do give a shit. Someone has to.
Sylvie will smile and nod and make her way back to the public housing.
And yeah, Charlotte lets her leave first. And, as Sylvie's, getting through the brush and whatnot, is just finally plucking up the laptop and shoving it back in her satchel. You hear the little, like, energy drink can pop as you're getting further out. And yeah, you can make your way back.
Okay, and I think that's a good place to end.
Yes.
All right.